Hello, Prosperity Wolves here. Let's talk about how did the universe begin? How time and space and all the fundamental forces came into place. Because we can track and see that in fact the Big Bang happened, but we don't know how it happened. What was before the Big Bang? And what if the universe was created out of nothing, but this nothing separated itself? It was different from the kind of nothing we can imagine after the Big Bang. I have a hypothesis. I already have a video on that. If you like, you can watch it. But this video is going to be an explanation only on the Aethron. This is the particle, my hypothetical particle, which is not actually a particle. But in this video, I will use poetic terms and some science terms to try and explain my hypothesis. What could possibly have been the trigger for a Big Bang? I didn't study academically astrophysics or physics or science. I studied through obsession. I've watched YouTube videos, read articles, that's basically it. And I used my imagination to come to a conclusion what could have been before a Big Bang. So I'll give my hypothesis. Again, this is not something I claim is true. This is not some conspiracy or something. No, this is just my imagination to try and propose an idea. Okay, here it goes. Now, to think about the Aethron, let's first think about nothing. Because I can agree that before the Big Bang, there was nothing, okay? The universe didn't exist as we know it now. This kind of nothing is different from the conceptual nothing we have now. Because to have nothing right now, what do we have to do? We have to remove the atoms, the molecules, we have to remove the quarks, the electrons, the protons. We have to remove everything, and then we will be left with a quantum fluctuation field, which permeates all space and time. It is absolutely everywhere. So it's still not empty. You cannot have absolutely empty space. We don't know about black holes, but this is not the ordinary time and space we talk about. This is something different. We still don't understand completely. But as for anything else other than black holes, and before the Big Bang, nothing is still not nothing because it's quantum fluctuation field. You can have a particle, you can excite, you can have an antiparticle, and if it excites, it can become a real particle. So it's still not nothing. And even philosophically, if you think about nothing, even without this permeating everywhere, quantum fluctuation field, then it's still not nothing because we have an idea. Philosophically, it's still not nothing. And this is the kind of nothing we can think about and have after the Big Bang. But before the Big Bang, the kind of nothing I call the Aethron. A-E-T-H-R-O-N. Aethron. And as I said, it's a particle. I like to think about it, but it's not a particle. It's the definition of nothing, which also didn't have quantum fluctuation field. This is one of the proposals of what could have been before a Big Bang. But when you don't even have space and time, you cannot put quantum fluctuation field, right? And for that, the different kind of nothing, which if you think about it, it has to lead to infinity, to infinitely nothing, okay? No possibility of nothing, absolutely no idea of nothing, but the Aethron. And now what is the Aethron? The Aethron is consisted of two parts in my hypothesis. It is consisted of its geometry and its gravity, and I'll explain them. First, the geometry. The geometry of the Aethron is such that it is, let's say, in a quantum state. In a quantum state which has almost infinite possibilities. And it's constantly testing itself. Okay? It's absolutely all of the time testing itself, but not in a linear process, because there was no time and space in which you can have events or time to measure. No. It, in a way, already had tested itself almost infinite times, all of the time. But this, let's call them interactions and testing mechanism, they have absolutely zero energy, they don't have velocity, then they don't have energy, mass, they don't have it. And the geometry of this, I don't know, let's call it irregular quantum. I call it irregular quantum because it's not like the quantum mechanics we have now. It was before even them. And this geometry is what will be. Okay? The geometry and the testing mechanism, which by the way has only one correct mechanism, okay? Only one correct alignment. This is what will be. The Big Bang happened, then the epochs, the Planck epoch, etc., etc. The renormalization, the reheating, not the heating, and up until now, 13.8 billion years ago, after the Big Bang. And also, if you think about what's outside, not of the observable universe we can observe, but outside of the whole universe that exists in this very moment, we know it's expanding, right? And what's beyond the wall, let's say the wall after what's already expanded, is the Aethron's potential, the Aethron's geometry when it was testing itself before the Big Bang, and in a way the Aethron knows the future of the universe. Because its geometry, and by the way, this geometry doesn't have shape, doesn't have number, we cannot explain it regularly, but we can see it. It knows what will come after. That's why it comes. And then we will ask, what about the second part? What about the gravity I just mentioned, the second component of the Aethron? This is the key component which gave the ignition to the Big Bang, to the beginning of time and space. This is what caused it, because it interacted with the infinite states and the testing mechanism, the geometry of the Aethron, and because it tested itself, now this is the interesting part. Through this interaction, as I said, the geometry doesn't have any energy, but it has potential energy, almost infinite, but not infinite, because the universe most likely will not be infinite. It will maybe collapse, something will happen, it may decay, I don't know what will happen, but it doesn't have infinite potential energy, but it's immensely huge. Everything will ever be, everything that will ever be. And this gravity interacted with the geometry of the Aethron, and it fired the Big Bang. Now, how exactly that happened, I have no idea. But another key point about this Aethron state is that imagine a black hole. You observe a black hole, you're in time and space, and you look at a black hole. Can you say where is the center of the black hole? Yes, you can say this is the circumference, and if you look here, this is exactly the center of the black hole. But for a black hole, it doesn't have a center. You can observe the black hole outside of the black hole, outside of its event horizon. If you're outside of it, you can observe it. But let's say, can you observe the Aethron as it was before the Big Bang? No, because there was no time and space, but the Aethron could do it. And the reason it could do it, it actually observed itself and knew itself outside of itself. The reason it could do it is because there was no space and time, there were no restrictions for itself. It could observe itself outside of itself. And when the Big Bang happened, it gave itself space and time, and then the fundamental forces, the other three fundamental forces. It gave itself that. And now, I would suggest, my hypothesis is that the Aethron is simply what will be the Aethron's geometry, and this gravity is still the force, but not like the relativity and Newtonian gravity. No, I don't talk about that. It's not a repelling force, it's not an attractive force, it's none of that. It's just the interaction between the geometry of the Aethron and this primordial, let's say, gravity, which is still causing the revealing of the Aethron. So thus, the universe is expanding. This gravity is in space-time, in the real universe, and the geometry of the Aethron is yet not created. It is what will be, but the interaction between the two is making the universe reveal itself. Okay? It's making the universe reveal itself. This is what it does. This was my hypothesis on what could have been possibly the creative mechanism prior to the Big Bang. My explanation of that nothing after the Big Bang is absolutely different from nothing before the Big Bang, and how the geometry and the gravity are interacting even now to reveal what will be. Thank you for watching this video. If you like such topics, consider to subscribe, because I will excel this idea. I'll make this idea much better. It will be improved significantly in the time. I'll make a series about it. If you're interested in that, you can leave a comment, you can do a suggestion, you can criticize me. I'll be happy, because, you know, as scientists, though I'm not a scientist, we are the most critiqued people. I will have the most criticism because people want to know the truth. Thanks for watching this video, and get to work.